So when I started Roommates, my target audience were college students. There's only that amount of college students in the world that's like reading webcomics. This is also the reason why I started Dear Alice. I basically made it more demographic friendly. Roommates wasn't very marketable. For Dear Alice, I really went through the thought of like people would want to buy like merch. Try to plan your comic and what type of demographic you would like to appeal to. I would suggest making social media comics because it is the best way to get your name out there. This is not to say making long comics for Webtoon and Tapas doesn't get you as much following. It's just that usually this type of comic, they take more effort and time. And when you're still unknown and you're trying to like just make it big, you know, you want to try to cut down as much time to do that as possible. Tropes are really helpful to get started on your webcomics as well. Pros of tropes is that you will get to jump on the hype train of some people who are invested in tropes like this. At the same time, there's tons and tons of people who are doing the same trope, and you have to make sure your story stands out basically. Instant info dumping about the backstory of a character. Even if I might be interested, it makes it a struggle to engage with the story right off the bat. Now this are very valid pet peeves. What I would like to see in a really huge world building story is in the prologue, it's like very vague environment, background stories, mysterious characters, mysterious protagonists even, and you know, their story gets later introduced by the gradual throughout the rest of the comic, basically throughout the rest of the episodes leading up to the ending. And if you really want to keep your people engaged in the prologue, having some sort of worldly conflict to your world building is also very important too. A lot of your pet peeves with 3D models is that they tend to overlap with the existing comic style of saying maybe it's like something is like very drawn, very beautifully illustration art style, and then you suddenly slap on a 3D background or item on it and it suddenly feels like you're taken out of the comic. And I would like to defend 3D a little bit. Most people who draw comics, they are not good at drawing everything. Some people are only good at drawing characters or props or environments. This is why we have 3D models to help us guide us into drawing it. However, I do understand that the overlapping needs a lot of work. If you are an artist and you're using 3D models, it would benefit you a lot more to make sure the art style and the 3D art style makes sense, you know, because to me it's like, yeah, I get off-put by it if it's like a 3D horse or it's just something that looks completely different from the illustration itself. But I also do know that some people are just not good at drawing in general and they use 3D models to help them, or they are running a tight deadline. So in this case, I feel like we need to be more mindful and just don't take it too hard if people have 3D models and stuff like that in the background. Secondly, let's talk about character introduction in prologues. When you introduce characters in prologue, you want to go by a general rule of making them small and memorable. Small meaning the character pool is small in the beginning. If you can't fit all the important ones in a hot tub, don't add more. My hot tub usually only consists of the female lead, the male lead, the friend, and the conflict character of the story, sometimes even less. It's also helpful to keep referring to characters by their names. For the thumbnail, I feel like you could go a little bit more contrast with the colors. Again, you want to stand out in the sea of comics. So I think for me, how I would change it, I would either make it like black and white, or yeah, just whatever means to make it stand out, either by the art or the colors. You can definitely panel this out more. You tried to fit all the dialogues in 4 panels, and that in return makes it look like, oh, there's a lot I have to read. And you can actually just storyboard this a bit longer. Your prologue never has to be like 5 minutes read and whatnot. You can always make them longer. The purpose of a prologue is to get people interested. It's not about how short you can make it. You struggle a bit with perspectives here. Basically, in this scene, she is taking a selfie, and in my edit, I would actually just do it like this instead. Basically, I find that to understand perspective, for me, it's easier to understand it with boxes. So boxes might help for very hard perspectives like this. When we make dialogues, we want to have a general rule where our texts don't go beyond the speech bubbles or don't touch the edge of the speech bubbles. Unless it's an intended reason of like they're screaming or they're shouting, so it's so loud that it goes out of the speech bubble. To be more nitpicky about your text is that we also generally don't put full stops in our speech bubbles. Comma is fine, but yeah, full stops it's like you're writing a text. It doesn't feel like they're talking, so just remove all the full stops if possible. I actually see a lot of artists that don't do this for their art. Let me create a scenario for you. Let's say you have a Patreon and you make bonus content on there, and you have a comic on Webtoon or Instagram. Let's say your comic has 60 readers and 10 of them are interested to check your social media, but you did not talk about the bonus content you have been making on Patreon. That's missed opportunity to promote your Patreon. In another scenario where you did talk about your Patreon, maybe you might gain 3 followers from those interests, and maybe, just maybe, one of them will end up as your Patreon. Any kind of content you make, like reels or just a single art post, it is always a good opportunity to bring it all back to your space. If I keep changing my name, what do you know? How do you settle on a name? Oh shit, okay, that's actually a good question, because to be honest, I haven't figured out that question. But I'm gonna try. Hazuki's advice is to just stop changing it. Okay, but like for real though, I had a really shitty start on a comic. I named it Roommates when there's like 50 other comics out there named Roommates. I didn't know how bad it would affect like the search of the comic, of even telling people about it and making people go find it and whatnot. What's the worst thing that could happen if you change it to help people find it better, help it be more recognizable? If it ends up becoming more recognizable, I say change it, because I did that for Roommates. It used to be called Roommates, and then I changed it to Slice of Roommates. And I ended up being the only other person who calls it Slice of Roommates, and I'm very happy with that. Even though the title is so much longer, I am just happy that I don't have to fight 50 other goddamn titles that is also called Roommates. To settle on one, just settle on the one that is easiest to look for and is the most banger title, pretty much.